Hello and welcome to the Flag Motorsport Podcast. My name is Charlie Roscoe and I'm joined by my regular co-hosts Ryan from Ryan Lee Graphics and as always the esteemed Willie. Welcome, gentlemen.
How you going?
Yeah, I'm going well. How are you going?
Good.
That's the way.
Lovely. How are we, gents?
We're going very well, very nicely. So, look, we're going to have a bit of a chat about the MotoGP this week. Obviously, we've got the Gold Coast coming up next week, and we've got the Formula One as well from the Circuit of the Americas. So, look, let's touch on these things. But I think we'll start off with the Formula. We'll start off with the MotoGP. I think from Japan because what an absolute cracking race.
She was a ripper. Great result for Dovi. Pulled through with a win.
Yeah.
It's all about capitalising. Marquez made a couple of mistakes. If you look at the pace of the year outright, Marquez should be running away with the title because he's had a few DNFs.
Absolutely.
But that's what it's all about. Being consistent, being the one that crosses the line first and all the rest. And yeah, Dovi's got mongrel about him. 5 wins this year. And prior to that in his career, he only had, MotoGP career, he only had 1 win.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Look at him go.
It's I don't know where he's getting the aggression from. Like for so long, he's been such a teddy bear, and all of a sudden,
maybe it's just comfortable with the bike. Maybe he's got a point to prove.
Yeah, maybe
Lorenzo's bringing in all the big bucks, and Dovi's just getting the change that falls out, and he wants to be number one. Yeah. And as it's looking, why not swap wages?
That's it. Old Lorenzo, J-Lo's struggling, isn't he?
Yeah, put him on the fucking janitor's wage.
He's again, he started strong though, old George. He got straight into it.
Yeah, and even towards the end of the race, so I remember looking where he was, and he dropped back to 9th or 10th, and I checked a few times and he was there, and then at the very end he crossed the line in 6th. Yeah. So I don't know whether he just was on autopilot and then thought, hang on, my tyres aren't rooted.
Well, he seems to do it. He seems to do it often. He starts very, very well, but I think it's a mental game for Jorge. I really do think it's always a mental game. Like he pushes to the front because he knows, hey, if I get to the front, I push hard, I'm gonna go well because that's how his whole career has worked, hasn't it? Like most of his results have come from being out the front, just going for gold, and not caring. But the thing is, he pushes at the front, but what he can't do is have a genuine fight and a scrap, and I think he lets every little thing upset him. And as soon as he does, like someone will shove it up the inside, and hey, that's it's not just motorbikes. Rubbing is racing. I think we all know that saying. And seriously, like it's a part of racing. People are going to shove it up the inside. Bike racing, you see it all the time against different different circuits, different layouts, and people are going to have a crack. If there's a gap, even when there's not a gap, to be honest, half of them will shove it up the inside and use the knee and the elbow to get you wide. And I think it just upsets him. Gets in his head, and then you just watch him drop backwards. He goes from 1st to like 8th in the space of 2 laps.
Yeah, when Folger pushed him out wide, which he did. Zarco. It was Zarco.
I was going to say it definitely wasn't Folger.
No, he wasn't racing. No, when Zarco pushed him out wide, that was I
100%.
think pretty rough. And Lorenzo made a comment later on. That Zarco thought he was playing a PlayStation game.
Look, it was rough. There's no doubt about it. It was aggressive, but I think it was fair play. Like Zarco got it up the inside. He had the line. Yeah, it was slightly in front. Yeah, he pushed Jorge out wide. But, you have to get to a point where you back off out of it as well. Like, at what point does it become Lorenzo's responsibility to go, he's going to run me out of track here, I should probably just back off a bit, try him at the next corner. Yep. I mean, there's no point in accelerating next to him, getting run out onto the curb, and then getting angry about it, is there?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think. Anyway, and but I did keep an eye on Lorenzo, and as I say, dropped back to, he might have even been 9th there at one point, and then as he often does, I think as he, starts to feel a little bit better about what happened to him, and he starts to move on from it, his pace picks up again towards the end of the race. And it's just the same thing over and over. Like it's meanwhile, Dovizioso did exactly the right thing, and I think the crucial part for Dovi and that win wasn't the last lap. Obviously, it was, but it wasn't the last lap. It was at the start when Petrucci had nothing to lose, jumped straight to the front and went for it. But Marquez kept up. He kind of, I can't remember what lap Marquez took second place, and Dovizioso very quickly jumped past. Was it Iannone at the time that they were shooting past? And anyway, when those two got past, Marquez being Marquez just pushed hard to catch up to Petrucci. But I think the crucial thing was when everyone else dropped off the back, Dovi, who looked like he was struggling for pace, he just did enough and he hung on. He was never going to fight Marquez, but he just hung on.
Yeah, he was there ready for an opportunity. Like he said, his tyres were buggered and he had nothing left. He said the centre of the tyre was okay, but he just had to wait for an opportunity. And lucky the Ducati with the grunt that it has, although it's not as standout as what it used to be, but
especially not
down that back straight.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, once he went out though.
Yeah, and he's the latest of the late breakers, and he just did the old block pass.
Yeah, he's very good under brakes, Dobby. Very good under brakes. But,
yeah.
I just think the crucial part for him was at the start when he looked to me like he was struggling to hang on to the back of Marquez, when Marquez, because I think at one point Petrucci might have been 5-6 seconds up the road. Marquez hunted him down, and Dovi obviously just knew, if I want to win this championship, I've got to go. I've got to go with him. And I think Christopher Mullen on the Australian telecast anyway was saying before the race that that on the grid, Dovizioso had said, look, if I want to win the championship, I've got to start winning races. And he's exactly right. I think we actually mentioned that in the previous podcast as well. And
he really does.
He absolutely, because one thing we can guarantee about Marquez is he's going to keep pushing and he's going to keep winning races.
Yeah, he can always sort of salvage the best of a bad bike. Probably more than anybody else. Yeah. So if he's not crashing, he looks like he's more consistent throughout the year. Dobby's had a couple of bad races, but overall he's been pretty strong.
Well, yeah, 5 wins is massive for him, like in a single season.
It's massive for Ducati.
I just don't understand where he's got his pace from. Or not his pace, because I think he's always had some pace, but he's never had any aggression. He's never been good at fighting and things like that. I just don't know where he's got his new attitude from, but I like it.
Maybe it's just those couple of wins. Yeah, maybe it's the couple of race wins, and it's just taking him that point to mentally go, so that's what I need to do to win a race. Not just be captain clean and all that sort of stuff. You got to have a little bit of bump and grind and
absolutely
a little bit of mongrel.
100%, especially against Marquez, who I think we all know. I don't want to see Marquez win for the simple fact that Marquez has already won a whole bunch, and I'd like to see a new winner. But it's difficult not to like Marquez. He's got a good attitude. He fights with everything he's got. He's quick, and he just digs deep every time. He's good in the wet. He's good in the dry. He's not a pretender. He's a good kid, and And I think Dovy's up against it to try and beat Marquez this year still. He's 11 points down, but there's only 3 races to go, and I was trying to sort of figure the points out. Obviously, if Marquez has decent results, Dovizioso really needs to come home with three wins. If he doesn't win the next 3, I think he's going to struggle, because there's only 5 points between first and second. So Marquez doesn't even have to fight for the win. He can get a couple of seconds, and it's going to come right down to the line.
Yeah, he's probably going to be stronger come Valencia, I reckon. Marquez is one of the best there.
He is very good there. Very good. I mean, all the Spaniards are good in Spain.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. I still think, even though there's only 11 points in it between Dovizioso and Marquez, I still think it's going to be a tough championship. And I think at this point we can safely say that it's a 2-horse race. Obviously Valentino Rossi, such a shame to see him go down. He's had a big, he's coming back with a broken leg. It's the last thing he needed, but luckily for him, it was a hell of a high side, mind you, and he said it was a big crash, but he was lucky to get away with it. But yeah, he's well and truly out of the championship at this point.
Oh god, yeah, he's what is he? Nearly about 80 points down. So he's actually he's well and truly gone.
Yeah, he's completely impossible. And I think Danny Pedrosa is on 170, only 2 points clear of Rossi. Rossi won't like that. And the reality is, I think Rossi's been better than Viñales all year. And unfortunately, when push comes to shove, Viñales is on 203 points, so still a mathematical chance, being 31 points down. But obviously very, very unlikely.
Yeah. He has had an injury, so you can't really look at that. You'd have to exclude like their worst rounds, I suppose, in that respect, to have a bit of an even playing field for them. We've had a lot of wet racing this year too, and the Yamaha hasn't been good in the wet. Yet previous years,
it hasn't, no, which is really odd, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of lacked just that little bit of pace previously.
Yeah.
And Rossi's good in the wet. The Yamaha was always good in the wet, so that was always something to look forward to. But it's been terrible. And if he's salvaged a result from that, he's doing a bloody good job.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
It's gonna be interesting. I really think that Marquez is going to win the championship. I would love to see Dovi win it. It's one of those things. After somebody, unless you're a massive fan of that particular person, once they start to rack up a few, you sort of think, well, it's somebody else's turn now. Unless,
that's it.
Like, people who are Marquez fans, they'd be looking at him going, go on, win every title. So that, because if he wins this year, that's 6, and that's only 3 behind Rossi.
Yeah.
And Marquez is only about 14 years old, so he's still got a few years left.
Oh, he's got plenty of wins left in him. He's still young. He's still fast. He's definitely going to continue to win and charge on. And that's why it's sort of good to see someone else fight for it. Dovizioso's new. Vinales is new, so that's good. Pedrosa's new in terms of world champions. Obviously, Dovizioso and Pedrosa have been around since the dawn of time. But in terms of championships, they've never had one. So...
Now, it's strange to think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Guys that have been around that long, and especially Danny, who's been on a factory Honda pretty much his whole career.
Yeah.
It must be hard for him to see. Like, I know he's had good races, and he is a little fella, and that's a part of heating the front tyre up and all those sorts of things. You've got to ride the bike a little different. But when you've got people come through, so Danny replaced Rossi, didn't he? Was that correct?
Geez,
at Honda?
Me now. Yeah, he might have done, actually. I can't remember who Rossi's teammate was when he left.
Yeah,
was it still Hayden?
It might have been.
Yeah, and then Pedrosa came in with Hayden for a few years until Hayden left.
Yeah, so he's seen the others win world titles, seen Rossi go through, seen Stoner go through. Now Marquez is there. He must just be thinking, boy, this is a bit tough.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, Pedrosa's at the end of his career. He's definitely there for informational stuff. I mean, there were moments through the year where he could have won the championship, but look, he's out. I mean, everyone's out. Vinales, I think, is the only mathematical chance at getting it still. So,
that'd take a miracle. Marquez would have to break just about every bone in his body.
He would.
Otherwise, if it was just a leg or something like that, I'd say just a leg, but the other guys seem to come back and race, so I'm sure he would.
That's it. I mean, I don't know. I think it's
Lorenzo
Marquez's
broke his
to
collarbone
lose
and come back for the next race, didn't he? A few
yeah.
years back?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, he wouldn't do it now.
No, and Jack Miller unfortunately couldn't get back for that particular round, but he definitely will be for Phillip Island.
Yeah, so such a shame he wasn't back because he's fantastic in the wet. Would have been a good ride for him.
I think it would have been. I don't know that the Honda's super strong in the wet either. Marquez is, but Cal Crutchlow is a pretty good indicator of where Jack Miller's pace is probably in the dry and the wet a lot of the time, because it is a non-factory Honda. They're going to be set up fairly similar. The performance should be similar, and they're both fairly handy in the wet. And Cal Crutchlow just looked all at sea this weekend. It was very unlike him, I thought, in the rain.
Apparently he had no feeling through the tyres, through the bike, didn't have confidence in it at all. He crashed twice and once, I think it was on a lap.
Isn't it?
Was it lap 4 and lap 11 or something like that, which was on the two separate bikes as well. He went back out on his second bike, which you can do when it's a wet race, I think, or can you do that normally?
You can do it whenever you like, I think. Yeah. No, did he go out on his second bike, or did he?
Yeah, he went out on his second bike. Yeah. You might be able to only do that when it's a flag to flag. Yeah, that's something for us to look up and talk about next time.
That is. We can do some research and look that up. But either way, I think Miller and Crutchlow tend to be similar paced. And if Crutchlow struggled that much, it wouldn't surprise me if Miller would have struggled a bit. But yeah, nonetheless, typically he does go very, very well in the wet, so it's a shame that he missed out. But he's back for Phillip Island, so he's back for the last couple of rounds, and he seems strong. They interviewed him again on the Australian telecast, which obviously not everyone not everyone gets, but they actually, I wouldn't say he co-commentated, but he kind of did over distance from his Townsville home, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and he seemed upbeat. He said he'd been training hard and all the rest, so it was definitely something that is going to happen, which is good. But speaking of Jonas Folger, which you were a while ago, granted it was probably 5-10 minutes ago, but Folger, they replaced him in Japan with one of the Japanese guys, and they're actually using Brock Parks at Phillip Island, so using his experience at the island as well. So yeah, Brock Parks will be riding Folger's bike, and it will be interesting to see how he goes.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I did not know that.
No, yeah. So, look, it's one of those things you kind of think, because Brock Parks is definitely not at the start of his career. He's not about to get a ride in MotoGP. Like, I like the guy and all the rest, and he's Australian, which is great. His experience for sure was why he was chosen around the island, but you sort of think it's an opportunity for someone like Tech 3 to give a young fella a chance. Surely you could pick out someone else, still Australian, that's had a heap of experience, and give them a crack on the MotoGP bike. You never know where your next rider's going to come from. I can guarantee you it won't be Brock Parks. They're not going to be looking at Brock next year going, geez, we could take this guy on. So I don't know. It's sort of, I'm always up and down with decisions like this.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. I suppose they probably won't have to pay him. I'd just say come and ride our MotoGP bike.
Yeah, but I mean that'd be the same with any young bloke, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah. Oh, it'd just be good experience for him, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't you like to be an Australian superbike rider and get a call up saying come and ride a MotoGP bike this weekend?
That's it. And like I would have much preferred to see that than Brock Parks. Whilst I'll still support him for sure. I'd much prefer to see some young bloke out of Australian superbike. Someone still with, hundreds, thousands of laps around Phillip Island. But yeah, perhaps someone with a bit of potential in front of them rather than Brock, who's probably at the end of his career, I'd suggest. Certainly tapering off at any rate. But yeah, anyway, thought that was quite a cool fact. But the championship is on. We'll see where we go from here. And last couple of rounds to go. Going for Dovizioso, but we'll just have to see how we go. And of course, Phillip Island's always a good round, I think.
That's one of the favourites of the riders. Fan favourite for everybody. Obviously, favourite for us being local, but it is one of the better circuits. I think. I like the fast flowing nature of it.
It's hard because we're probably a bit biased, but at the same time, it is a pretty awesome racetrack. Like, it's one of the best. The riders rave about it, so it can't be that bad.
Yeah, the Ducati should go quite well there too.
Should do. And it's the Ducati goes well there, so it's going to be interesting.
Yep.
But speaking of giving young fellas a chance, might be a good time to segue over to Formula One because, of course, Brendan Hartley is going to be having a crack in the Toro Rosso at the Circuit of the Americas this weekend.
Yes. I know things.
Welcome back to the conversation, Mr. Non-Motorcycle Man.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see how he goes.
Now, for those who don't know, Ryan, tell us a little bit about Brendan Hartley. Who is he? What's he do?
Brendan Hartley is very, very good. He's come from New Zealand, young kid. He's currently racing in the World Endurance Championship for Porsche, has been for a couple of years, used to pair up with Mark Webber and such, and he's had quite a successful little career in multiple different categories. And going into his debut for Formula One, it's actually on the back of 3 races in a row in 3 different categories at the top of each of their categories. So,
busy boy.
He competed in the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta in the Daytona Prototypes, which is a 10-hour endurance race, which he won. He then went on to go to the World Endurance Championship in Fuji, which was a torrential downpour, as it is every single year. And in the Porsche, they came 4th due to a couple of issues. And now he's going to Coda to race in a Formula One car. So, top category racing in succession is definitely race fit, that's for sure.
Yeah, busy boy. But I'm just looking here on the Formula One website itself. A couple of interesting points. First of all, he has actually driven a Toro Rosso before, back in 2009. Looked like he tested for Toro Rosso twice, in fact, with Kvyat. And it also says that he's now the 9th New Zealander to race in Formula One, but the first since 1984 with Mike Thackwell.
Yeah, it goes back a little while. I think the best thing for Brendan Hartley is not only, as you just said, is he done some testing in the Formula One before, but LMP1 cars aren't slouches. They're very, very fast. Some say, like, looking at a lot of the figures, they got more power. They just weigh more, so that's where they don't have the outright speed of a Formula One car. But he's got the physical fitness, to do 3-4 hour sessions at Le Mans for the 24 hour and all that. So that's not a problem at all. He's recently just raced competitively at COTA in the World Endurance Championship 6 hour, which was only last month. So he's just been there. So he's fresh in his mind. So competitively, he's very good, and he's going to be. I think there's going to be a few people who will sit up and be like, "Oh, so who's this guy then?"
Yeah, I think he's going to go well. I mean, as you say, that experience in the LMP1 car has to transfer across. Any which way you look at it, he's used to dealing with a lot of downforce, a lot of power, and of course, electric systems as well, or the energy, the ERS and all that sort of thing that both of them share. So he's going to have a fairly good range of experience with the actual high speeds and everything. The physical fitness is clearly there, and as you say, he's done a lot of laps around Circuit of the Americas, probably more than most of the Formula One people there, I'd imagine.
I'd say so. But it's, the main thing is technologically driving a Formula One car. I would almost say it's probably going to be easier for him than a LMP1, because the amount of technology that goes into driving these cars, to fuel numbers and all that sort of stuff, which is obviously there's a fair amount going on with a Formula One car still, but they do say that drivers from 10 years ago wouldn't be able to drive a P1 car from this year, just because of the significant amount of technical input the driver has to do per lap, sort of thing. So there's a lot more to it than just driving, but I did have to have a bit of a laugh the other day when I saw an American broadcasting place put out an article saying, who is Brendan Hartley? So if that's the sort of mentality that most Americans are going by, which I'm not too surprised when you're talking about, World Endurance Championship and Formula One. People in Formula One aren't most sport fans; they're just Formula One fans.
Yeah, a lot of them are. That's the reality, regardless of which country they come from. But
exactly,
a lot of F1 fans. Obviously, there's a lot of Hollywood in Formula One. There's a lot of glitz and glamour and all the rest. And I think you end up with people that aren't necessarily motorsport fans. They're just fans of the show, the Formula One show, which is fine. It's good. Keeps I was going to say Bernie's wallet ticking over, but it's not Bernie anymore. It's
no, it's not.
Straight back to America with those funds, so it's definitely worth doing. Yeah. But yeah, as you say, it's I think a lot of people. It's not just the Americans there. I think there's a lot of people around the world who don't know much about
sports car racing in general. Although it's quite popular, there are a lot of people that have no idea about what's going on.
Exactly, and a lot of those people that do sort of dabble in it probably look at the Le Mans 24 hour, because it's kind of the glitz and glamour. It's the one big event of the year that gets a lot of people in that wouldn't generally watch it.
Which, of course, Brendan Hartley has won.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's going to make a lot of people sit up, but it'd be interesting to see how he goes. So, obviously we have no idea if he's going to go well, but everything indicates to the fact that he probably won't go too bad.
No, I think he probably do well. I mean, I think out of all this, though, for me, you got to feel for Kvyat. Gets dumped from the Red Bull team.
Yeah.
And then gets dumped from the Toro Rosso team, and then Pierre Gasly has to nip back off to Japan to win a championship over there, and they're like, "Oh, look, Kvyat, can you just come race for us this other race, and then we're going to kick you back out again?" Poor bloke.
Let's be honest. The second he was dropped from Red Bull, at that point, he was never going to go on to have a prosperous career in Formula One.
No. No, but I mean, he's basically being used as a pawn by the powers that be at the teams at the moment. You sort of,
Absolutely.
You think, where to for the bloke now, really?
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's exactly what he's going to do. They're planning for the future, as Red Bull were always going to do.
Oh yeah.
And Kvyat's not part of their long-term prospects, but people like Brendan Hartley and people like Pierre Gasly, these are people that Red Bull are going to look to replace Dan Ricciardo when he goes and races for Mercedes, or Verstappen when he's racing for Ferrari, or whichever way that might go. That's who they're going to be looking for to feed in. Yeah, they're not going to be going,
exactly.
Kvyat, come and take Danny Rick's spot. They're not going to be doing that.
No, and with the massive prospect of Brandon Hartley being basically a free agent for next year, as Porsche pulled out of the World Endurance Championship, he currently doesn't have a drive. He was heavily linked to IndyCar, but this could definitely be an avenue. And if he does manage to do well against Kvyat, especially, I wouldn't say that it's not an option.
No, yeah, absolutely, but. No, look, it's something interesting coming out of it. Looking forward to seeing how it goes this weekend, as I say, at the Circuit of the Americas. So it's again right there for the Americans to see him and figure out who he is, and maybe get into some sports car racing in the future. But anyway, that might be a good point to jump over and finish off this podcast with a little bit of a chat about the V8 Supercars, which of course didn't race on the weekend, but they do have the final of the endurance rounds coming up. And it is at the Gold Coast.
And I'm keen.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good to see how it all goes. A little bit of news coming out of the supercars this week. James Warburton has announced he's leaving.
Yes.
So obviously for those who don't know, he's the CEO of the supercars. Have I got that right? Of the actual supercars themselves?
Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, it depends what happens with who picks it up and all the rest. Maybe just with when he came in, there was the 5 manufacturers. Everything was looking pretty strong. It's starting to sort of dwindle a little bit on what's going to happen with the future of it. I think there's still going to be a strong future, especially with the investing Penske and now Andretti, and then you've still got your big teams anyway. So, like, the series itself will be fine. Maybe he's just not sure on how it's going. I personally think all he was a bit of a salesperson type thing. I don't know. I've never really liked him that much.
That in a sense is all Tony Cochran was either. But Tony Cochran was probably a better sales pitcher to the fan base.
Oh, I think he loved the sport though. I don't think James loves the sport. I think he's just a bit of a businessman. He's just sort of here doing his job rather than a passion, if that makes sense.
But at the end of the day, I mean, he has done a lot of good things for the category, and bringing in the Foxtel deal was a massive revenue stream for money.
241 million.
Amount.
Late 2014 he signed up for a 6-year rights deal with Fox.
Yeah, and I mean,
which I think will keep going, and without that, it would have.
Well, exactly. I mean, if you
took it from a backyard category, I think.
Yeah, if you think about Channel 7's broadcast before Foxtel took over, there was an ad break every 3 laps. It was bloody ridiculous.
Oh, it was rubbish. And now, even still with the 3 endurance rounds that are on Channel 10 as well, they still have the ad breaks. Obviously, you can still see what's going on, but they have a bit of an ad break, so the screen sort of splits in half.
But that will
irritates
end next year, though.
Oh, I know, and I can't wait, because at the moment it irritates the piss out of me. This year was a lot better than last year, because the ads took up majority of the screen. What you could see was only rather small in the top corner, and it was frustrating. You forget how spoiled you are when you have to watch a race with ads after watching clean racing, no ads. It is fantastic. So, no, that was a deal that saved... That was probably the deal that saved the sport.
Well, it's money in general. Again, just looking on the Supercars website here, it was saying that basically when he joined in mid-2013, it was right when the Supercar teams had sold their majority share in the business to Archer Capital. And it was no longer able to rely basically on racing entitlements. contract dividends and things like that. So that signing basically decreased the likeliness, and it was likely at the time, that the 2015 grid was going to be substantially smaller.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and that's the
he
thing.
might not have been like the face of supercars that everybody loved, but he was obviously there crunching numbers, doing the right deals, shaking the right hands, making some money for the sport, and ultimately he set it up for the next however many years. You can't exactly say the sport is struggling for money at the moment, and that's probably something he can rest on his shoulders and say he picked up supercars when it was in a tough spot, and he's made it prosper.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people have been bagging on him and stuff, and I mean, I've not really held too much sway over who he was, because you barely see him in the public eye, and I think that's part of the problem, because we grow so used to that. I mean, every single race weekend you'd see Tony Cochran walking around bloody strutting his stuff and proud of his baby, and like, sure, he should have been, but it was a different animal when he sold that. And I think what Warburton's been able to do, I mean, I think I saw the other day that he was the first person to sell the naming rights to the category since like 2000 or something. Now with the Virgin Supercars, so he's done a lot of good things for the category. And I think,
look, sometimes it's not necessarily about having a passion in the sport itself. Sometimes it's about being a good businessman. Maybe what the Supercars needed at the time when they brought him on board wasn't someone who just absolutely was in love with the category and the sport and wanted to be at every round watching it. Maybe, I don't know much about James Warburton, maybe he did love it, but perhaps what Supercars needed at the time was a businessman who was going to make shit happen, basically.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I mean, it sucks to see him go, but I think the main thing will be just who they get to replace him, and hopefully they don't just grab the next Tom, Dick, and Harry that just walk down the street.
Yeah, that's it.
Stick their hand up in the air.
That's it. I mean, that's always a risk, and he might not have been the most popular guy ever, but he was clearly effective. I don't think you can take that away from him. And of course, the big question is the next person that replaces him going to be as effective or not?
Yeah, so that's that, I guess.
That is that. I don't know if much else is happening in the lead up to the Gold Coast, but it is going to finish
I think that the main sort of point that has been shown is the fact that it is such a slow-moving week of news, is the fact that they're digging out as much as they could, and they've brought up the old Garth Tander and Coulthard incident.
They have from last year at the Gold Coast.
From last year, yeah. So, I mean, that in itself to me sort of just says, well, we're clutching at straws and we need something to fill the papers. What's controversial, and we'll get people talking.
Yeah.
But I guess...
they tend to do that a little bit with rivalry. They'll have that, and they'll have all the media talking to Tander and Coulthard going, what about last year? Do you reckon it'll happen again this year?
Well,
you guys
the
friends?
same thing. And the lead up to Bathurst had the same thing about Tander, Winkup, and McLaughlin. So I mean, they love a beat up, but I think
didn't those three go well there?
Oh yeah, that was great. Don't remind me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously the story comes out, and Garth Tander sort of admits fault for the first time, after seeing all the reviews and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I still think it's 50-50.
Yeah, it takes two.
Yeah.
It takes two to tango. One should have moved a little bit. The other one, like Tander was there. Fabian moved over. So it's a matter of realising where you both are. What they're going to do. I don't know.
Yeah. Look, it always takes two to tango, but it also just takes one Garth Tander to punt Coulthard in the wall, which is what happened. So,
Well, it also takes one Fabian Coulthard to turn over Garth Tander.
I knew this was going to be a good point.
It depends what angle you looked at. I remember watching it, and I just thought, Tander, you dirty dog, what have you done?
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, hang on, Coulthard, you're a cockhead. What'd you do that for?
Yeah.
And then as the camera angles shot back, you just think, hang on, now I don't know what to think. And you think,
I think the main thing that you've got to look at, and it comes from this year's category rules and the way that they're dictating all of their actions, is that there is not one person that's wholly to blame, therefore it's a racing incident.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's just a difficult one. It's just a difficult one to call, and it was difficult last year to call. But the fact that Tander has kind of, taken a bit of blame for it, you have to think that he's kind of going, yeah, look, I knew what I was doing. I was happy giving him a little nudge, and obviously it got out of hand. But the fact that he owned up to it, surely you got to say, it's Tander's fault.
Depends how he owned up to it, though. He might have gone.
Look at that footage as well.
It might have been my fault. So it's hard for us to go. Tander's said, "Oh man, it was my fault. I turned him around because I didn't like him. I just thought he was a cockhead on the day."
Yeah,
but he might have just gone, "Oh, look, it could have been me to blame, but who knows?" And it could have just been that.
At the end of the day, he sort of says all that, but what they didn't show was the bit after it where he goes, well, if Coulthard didn't turn over on me, I wouldn't have hit him.
Yeah, I got to say, Coulthard looked like he was sticking in between those white lines, going down that road.
No way.
He stayed in his lane, he was in his lane, and, stick in your lane. He never left that lane until Tander was...
The main thing to take from that is he could have moved further right and left more room on the exit of the turn for Tander to be there.
He could have pulled over and let everyone go through as well, but,
Well, he would have been able to go down and he would have been right. It would have been fine. He would have just done that age-old trick where Tander would have gone for the chicane and Coulthard wouldn't have been able to stop in time. So he would have just driven through and managed to, oh, sorry, I had to drive through the chicane, pulled up a little bit, resumed battle, still in front of Tander.
Whincup and Giz did it.
Yeah, do it all the bloody time. Everyone does it.
Well, look, I think this answers the question as to why they dug this up from last year. I don't think it even had to be a slow news week. I think it's such a good talking point that that they could probably bring this up for the next 5 years and get away with it, because people are still going to argue over who did it, even though everyone doesn't say Tander's wrong. But other than that,
it lights the fire, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Get you pumped for the race. Let's get ready.
There's only one bloody reason why it lights the fire in me. And it's not because Coulthard hit the wall. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, bit of sand in the undies gets people bloody squirming, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Doesn't it get people all up and about?
When you start pushing things on my favourite driver, I get angry.
Yep.
Yes, you do. Triggered.
It's probably like Bathurst a couple of years ago.
Shut up.
Same thing.
When I was bloody Wincup's
It's always Tander. It's always bloody Tander. Well, it's not Tander.
Bloody Wincup's fault.
It wasn't Wincup's fault. It was Scotty. He shouldn't have come back on the track.
I tell you what, we're going to have to do in a slow racing week when there's actually no racing on. We're going to have to go through and pick out 5 of the most controversial supercars crashes, and we're going to have a conversation about just them. And that'll, after 3 hours, I'm going to have to cut the podcast off, but it'll give us something to chat about.
Because we'll still be talking about the first one.
Yeah, exactly. We won't go past the first incident yet.
Yeah, that's it.
Very good, very good. Well,
it should be a good weekend of racing, though, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, look, it always is at the Gold Coast. It's a shame they don't just do it in one big swoop. I don't like how they... I don't know. I don't even think it should be called an endurance race, but that's probably another question for another day. Obviously, it's an endurance race, but yeah. Anyway, on that note, might be a very good time to wrap the podcast up. So I do want to apologise for anybody watching. There was about a 10-minute segment there where nothing was displaying on the podcast, so apologies for that. And I'm going to get rid of this starting soon text as well. That doesn't need to be there. But anyway, I would like to thank everyone who has joined us for this episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and please feel free to check out all of our other podcasts either on this very YouTube channel or by visiting our website at www.flagtoflag.ml. And of course, last but not least, thank you for all of your arguing input, Ryan and Willie. Well, we look forward to talking to you all next time, but for now, it's bye.